after what was maybe not the most exciting divisional round we had, we're down to 4 teams left. We got the 49ers and the Eagles in the NFC, and then we have the Bengals and the Chiefs in the AFC. 4 teams left. 1 team will win the Lombardi, 2 teams go into the Super Bowl. But I really just want to focus on and hammer home some points with these divisional round matchups and what I saw. Starting off with the Chiefs and Jaguars, this game went exactly how I expected it to go. Exactly how I expected it from the opening. I expected the Chiefs to go out early. I expected the Chiefs to not dominate in a sense, but have full control of the game for the whole game. And that's exactly what they did. The Jaguars had their moments. They made it a game. They kept it close, just like I thought. And that's why I said on the video when I made my bet that I was afraid to take the Chiefs minus 8.5. They're not good at covering those big spreads. I knew the Jaguars would put up some fight, and absolutely, yo, what's up, Colin? Hey, guys, anybody on Instagram or TikTok, make sure you join the YouTube. I'm going to be letting people in here in about probably 15, 20 minutes. So make sure you join on the YouTube. Link is in the story. But back to the game. And the way Pat Mahomes bounced back from that injury shows why I think Pat Mahomes is as great as he is. On one leg, he still was amazing in that game. And I know everyone wanted to clown Chris Collinsworth, saying, "Oh, he's sucking Pat Mahomes off." Yeah, but Pat Mahomes kind of deserved it with the way he played on one leg. They absolutely had full control of that game the entire time. And the Jags made runs. The Jags made big plays. But, you could see the inexperience outside of Doug Peterson, who had experience in that Jaguars team, from coaches to staff to the roster. Not much playoff experience. And it showed. Jags have a very bright future. They have all the key pieces in place. They have a star defensive player in Josh Allen. They have what I think is already a top 7 quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. He was phenomenal. I don't think people realize that he was the best quarterback statistically from, I believe it was November till the end of the season. I don't think he had a really bad start to the season. Really tough start for the season. And he did not have a great year last year, but they definitely have a lot of pieces and all the pieces in place to be a very successful franchise going forward. And I'm very excited to see what the Jaguars are going to bring going forward. But yes, that game went exactly how I thought it did. Probably would have thought the Chiefs would have won by a little bit more, but I know there's a garbage time field goal. But definitely just, the way that game went is exactly how I expected it to go. The Chiefs basically were in control from the get-go. From the very beginning, the Chiefs had control of that game. So, not much else to say there. Let's flip over to the game I wanted to talk about, the Eagles and the Giants. Can we start putting some more respect on the Eagles? And I know we're going to have somebody come in here, and they're going to be like, "Oh, everyone respect." No, you didn't. They were the most popular upset pick of the weekend. And I don't want to say Bengals, Bills. There was no upset there. They were evenly matched teams. The Eagles were the most popular team to get upset this weekend. Everyone said they're coming off short rest. Everyone said their quarterback's not 100%. If that's what Jalen Hurts looks like when he's not 100%, then the rest of the league has a problem on their hands. Because if you don't have a quarterback named Pat Mahomes or Joe Burrow, if Jalen Hurts played that well at 70%, watch out. You definitely need to watch out. But like I said before the game, the Eagles were going to win that game in the trenches, and they absolutely dominated defensively in the trenches, offensively in the trenches. We saw the run game on full display. We saw the pass rush on even more display. Fletcher Cox looked like vintage Fletcher Cox. I just got a question. Do I think Jalen Hurts for the MVP? No, I don't think Jalen Hurts will win MVP because of the injury. Him and Pat Mahomes, I think Pat Mahomes played a little bit better this season, but obviously there is some improvement that needs to be made from year to year to win the MVP. So Jalen Hurts was my front runner before he got hurt, but with missing those games and how well Pat Mahomes played this season, it's got to go to Pat Mahomes. But back to the Eagles game. So we saw the run game on full display. They pounded in the trenches, every single one of them. Kenneth Gainwell, 114 yards, 100-plus yards for Miles Sanders. Boston Scott, the giant killer, another touchdown. 11 of his 19 career touchdowns have come against the Giants. And the Eagles defensively, Fletcher Cox was getting there. Hassan, from the very get-go, they were bringing the pressure on Daniel Jones. They were bringing the pressure through that offensive line. The Giants never stood a chance in that game. And that's just a sad reality for Giants fans. And it's not a bad thing because the Giants are in a similar spot as the Jags. I look at the Giants a lot like I did at the Eagles from last year. They ran into a team that is a lot better than them, like the Eagles ran into the Bucs last year. And they ran into the Eagles this year, who I think were the best team in the NFC all season. I've been saying it. And they just fell short. And it's okay. They have so many key pieces in place. They're very similar to the Jags. They have their quarterback. Daniel Jones is that guy. And I was very low on Daniel Jones. I said he was not a top 20, 25 quarterback. I would ranked him, I think, like 30th in the league heading into the season. Completely blew up my expectations. I was completely wrong on Daniel Jones. And I admit that. I will, like in the words of Shannon Sharp, I'm not too small to admit when I'm wrong. And I was completely wrong on that. Daniel Jones is deserving of the money, and he completely impressed me this season. But they were just facing a team that had more talent. They were just facing the better team. The Eagles were the better team all season. The Eagles were the better team that day in every aspect of the game. Every single position the Eagles did better, are better at, and that is exactly why they won that game. And heading into next week, I'm very, very confident as an Eagles fan. I think this game's obviously, when you get down to this many teams at this point, anybody can beat anybody. Any of these 4 teams can win the Super Bowl. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens this week. Let's flip over to the Sunday game, starting off with the Bills and Bengals. Bills, absolutely embarrassing. The Bills got embarrassed. And honestly, I can't say I didn't call it. I didn't see it because I said the Bills aren't as good as people make it out to be. Josh Allen is everything that Dak Prescott is, but better. He's just a better version of Dak Prescott. He's as inconsistent as Dak Prescott. He turns the ball over like Dak Prescott. But he is better than Dak Prescott in the same sense, if that makes sense. Josh Allen, the issue with the Bills is a lot more. Sometimes it seems like they don't have a game plan. It just seems like Josh Allen sometimes is just slinging it out there. And that can't happen. That can't happen if you want to win a Super Bowl. Also, when you get to the playoffs, what wins the games is strong defenses and strong run games. All 4 of the teams left have a very solid run game. Eagles, best run game in the league. 49ers, they have Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell. Both dogs have a great offensive line. Bengals, we saw they won that game in the trenches. They won that game by giving it to Samaje Perine, by giving it to Joe Mixon. That offensive line held up great and defied all my expectations. My only worry with the Bengals was, can that offensive line hold up? And it held up. The Bills, they don't have a run game. They drafted James Cook, and they just don't give him touches. It's like they drafted this guy with their second-round pick, and they don't give him the ball. They're still trying to get something out of Devin Singletary. You're getting nothing out of Devin Singletary. He is a third, third string running back at best. Time to move on. Time to either go pay for a running back, actually draft one, or give James Cook a chance. James Cook had a lot of flashes towards the end of the season, and I really like the Bills are going to be right back where they were next year. Don't get me wrong. The Bills are going to be competing. They're going to be a favorite to win the AFC. Never going to be my pick until they prove it, until they can get a run game. Also defensively, they got to get a better defensive game plan. I mean, I don't know what Leslie Frazier was calling there, but their secondary, they just put do I know Dylan? Dylan who? They put their secondary in some awful positions in that game. And yes, I know you lost Mike Hyde for the season, and Jordan Poyer and Tre'Davious White heads collide and they go out for the rest of the game. Yes, they battled injuries. You lost Damar Hamlin. I understand. Yes, I know Dylan Davis. I used to work for him. All in all, it's just, they have a lot of things for the Bills have to change. They have to get a stronger defensive game plan, especially in the secondary. They have to stay healthy. I know a lot of health is out of a lot of those injuries, especially, are just out. Nothing they can do to help it. But they definitely have to make some improvements in that run game. They have to find a consistent running back. They might need to get a better beef up that offensive line too, because I'm pretty sure that offensive line is getting pretty old. So you're going to have to get some younger guys inside of that offensive line. A lot of things that the Bills are going to have to improve on if they want to take that next step, because they're never going to pass Kansas City. They're never going to pass the Bengals if they don't get a stronger run game, because those teams not only have a star quarterback and a star pass catcher in Jamar Chase and Travis Kelce, they have running backs that can get the job done. The Chiefs had Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who I'm not a huge fan of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but if you mix Isaac Pacheco, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Jerick McKinnon, that is a good enough running game to win you a Super Bowl. And also, the Chiefs get a little bit of an exception because they have that Patrick Mahomes. They have that generational talent. I'm not saying Joe Burrow's not a generational talent. Joe Burrow's a dog. Don't get me wrong. Joe Burrow is the second best quarterback in the NFL, but he is not Pat Mahomes. He is not Pat Mahomes. So Bengals, they're as good as I thought they would be. They're probably right where everyone expected them to be. These were my 2 picks before the season and go to the AFC Championship. I didn't expect to see a lot of regression from the Bengals, and we didn't this season. I know they had a little bit of struggles early, but, everybody does, I mean, especially when you play till the Super Bowl, you're playing till February. That's not easy. That is not easy. A lot of these teams are done first week of January. You're playing a whole extra month. They're already preparing for the offseason. That's why you don't see a lot of teams go back-to-back, because it's hard. Football obviously we know football does a lot to the body, so. But Bengals, they're right where I thought they were. Bills, you've got to get a run game if you want to compete in the years to come. And now to the last game of the divisional round. We have the Cowboys and the 49ers. Listen, it was great to see the Cowboys lose. It was great. It was honestly great. Dak Prescott didn't play that great of a game, and I loved it. Although I always end up being the Dak Prescott defender because I try to take my bias towards him as an Eagles fan out when I talk about him. He's still a top 10 quarterback, guys. There's no way around that. He's still, I mean, we saw how good he played against the Bucks. You can sit there and clown him for that game last night all you want, but you got to give him credit for that Bucks game at the same time. So I'd still put Dak Prescott fringe top 10, but man, he had some bad picks. Like that one he threw, the first one he threw was really bad. I don't even know who he was throwing to in that case, but it was really bad. All right, and I'm going to drop the link, so make sure you go join on the YouTube. I'm dropping the link right now. Anybody would like to join? Continue to talk a little bit here, but as I go about this, but yeah, it was just bad, man. He just made some bad interceptions, and their defense played up the par. Their defense played to win that game. Their defense played completely to win that game. They were in a great position to win that game. They just couldn't get the job done. They just gave up just too many points, and I told you this game was soaring under for this reason, because that 49ers defense really did a number on Dak Prescott. DeMeco Ryans should be the first candidate for any team in desperate need of a head coach, especially if you want a defensive identity. You go get DeMeco Ryans right now. You go as soon as the 49ers season's over, you offer DeMeco Ryans, because that guy is a genius. That guy knows how to run a defense. That guy knows how to call defensive plays. He knows the schemes. He knows how to handle offensive changes. But for Dallas, I mean, I think your biggest thing is you got to get new leadership. I saw somebody say that, necessarily Dallas doesn't have a leadership. It's not all in the leadership. Getting Sean Payton. Yes, getting Sean Payton would help a lot. It probably would get you to the conference championship. I know there's obviously some things you need to do, roster-wise, adjustments you need to make. Obviously, you got to see what's going to happen with Tony Pollard. You might want to get another weapon. Offensive line, you always need to make sure you have a solid offensive line. But defense, you definitely got to work on that secondary. But all in all, the biggest thing for me is you got to fire Mike McCarthy. You got to go out there and try to get Sean Payton. Because if you get Sean Payton there, Sean Payton, I don't know. I think they win that game. I really do, because I think with the way that game went, whoever was the better coach that day was going to win that game. That's why I was really confident in the 49ers to win that game. Because honestly, it came down to people want to sit there and say it was on the quarterback play. Brock Purdy didn't really. He played good. He played good. Brock Purdy, he plays good, but he doesn't jump off. He doesn't jump off the sheet to you. He's not this guy that just like is going to put up these. Brock Purdy's not going to win you a game. Brock Purdy is going to not lose you a game, but he won't win you a game at the same time. So just overall, Dallas, you got to get new leadership. A new head coach would definitely help. Obviously, I would say your biggest thing is the secondary and the head coach are the two biggest aspects Dallas needs to improve on. You also are going to get a new offensive play caller because Kellen Moore is terrible. And I don't know how that guy ever was up for a head coaching job. He is terrible. He is awful at calling plays. And honestly, the play that they're getting clowned for is that last play. But I looked at it, it wasn't the best play in the world. Obviously, you're never going to get necessarily the best play in the world. But I'm going to switch over to TikTok now. You're never going to get the best play in the world from your guy in that situation. You're never going to get the best play because you got to go 75 yards in one play. It's called a miracle for a reason. So everybody getting on the Cowboys for that play, I don't know what you're missing. I don't know what you don't understand. That was not necessarily, the easiest play to run, but I don't think it was a horrible. I didn't hate the concept. The whole concept was to create space for the receiver. The issue was Connor McGovern was late to the block because Zeke didn't give Dak any time, didn't give him time to, sit there and let McGovern get to the block and I believe was it Noah Brown or Turpin, get the ball in space because they honestly, it was setting up perfectly. They would have had a second longer. I'm not saying they would have scored, but it would have been a big game. It would have been a pretty big game there. Sorry, I'm just checking the Virginia Tech score. If you're in the chalkboard, we wrote Virginia Tech money line tonight. But yeah, it just comes down to the fact that biggest thing you got to get. And now let's look at the 49ers. I hear a lot about what are they going to do with their quarterback situation this coming offseason. I would say your best bet, honestly, you got to give Trey Lance a real chance. I know he played one game. He didn't look that great, but, he played one game in a tsunami. Second game, he gets hurt in the first quarter. I know, but everyone wants to give the job to Brock Purdy this, Brock Purdy that. You still have to see what you have with Trey Lance. You spent a lot on Trey Lance. You gave up a lot to get Trey Lance. So you have to find a way to make sure that you get him an opportunity. You have the ability to give Trey Lance the opportunity and then have Brock Purdy sit behind him for a little bit. Give Brock Purdy some more time. I know, he's on a big stage, but time can only help Brock Purdy. You realize he was a 7th-round pick for a reason. So I don't think I think if they go into next season starting Trey Lance, that's not the worst thing in the world. The only mistake they really can do is Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo's gone. Listen, you got Brock Purdy and you got Trey Lance. Jimmy Garoppolo is done. He's not coming back. They shouldn't bring him back. And if they really do start Jimmy Garoppolo in the Super Bowl or the NFC Championship, either or, that would be the dumbest thing they could ever do. Looking at the conference championship matchups, Bengals, Chiefs, I instantly lean Chiefs. I never lean against Pat Mahomes. If Pat Mahomes plays, I'm going to pick the Chiefs. Just saying that straight up. Because I think these rosters are insanely equal, and I always give the quarterback advantage. And Pat Mahomes is the best quarterback by a lot. The Bengals just seem to find a way to beat the Chiefs, and I think at some point that has to give. They're not necessarily outplaying them every time. I don't think they outplayed them in the AFC Championship last year. I think the Chiefs played a better game. But you know what they did? They just found a way to win, and that's all that matters sometimes. You just got to find a way to win. Can the Bengals replicate that for what would it be, fourth time? Or did the Chiefs finally get over the hump? I think as of now, early, Chiefs get over the hump. I'm also loving, listen, these lines are so tight. I'm taking the spreads no matter what. I love the Chiefs minus 1.5. I just don't see a way Pat Mahomes loses again to him. I really don't. Especially if Pat Mahomes plays off this injury. If he's playing at even 60%, I still like a 60% Pat Mahomes as much as I like 100% Joe Burrow. So I am going to early lean the Chiefs. I think Pat Mahomes is going to probably put on the game of his life. And in the NFC, listen, I'm at the point. My Eagles are in the NFC Championship. And this game can go either way. There is no way I'm going to bet against my Philadelphia Eagles at this point. This game between the Eagles and 49ers, I'm going to say it all week, is going to come down to, like I said, the battle in the trenches. You have two of the best, if not the two best offensive lines, two of the best, if not the two best, front sevens. That's where the game's going to be won. Who wins on the run game, who gets pressure to the quarterback more. And I'm going to go with the Eagles. They were the second best pass rush in the NFL history this season, behind, I think it was the 86-87 Bears. Had 70 sacks. Only team ever with 4 guys with 10-plus sacks. They were an absolute unit. Nobody could touch them. And, their run game's just as good. They have a better offensive line than the 49ers. Maybe their running backs don't jump off the paper. Kenneth Gainwell, Boston Scott, Miles Sanders, the same way a duo of Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell might. But all in all, I'm going early lean. I'm going Eagles to take down the 49ers. I think their quarterback's better. I think their run game's better. I think their offensive line's better. I'm going to give receivers to the 49ers. I'm going to give secondary to the 49ers. I'm going to give front seven to the Eagles. So I'm going to give the Eagles the advantage there. I'm going to give the coaching advantage to the 49ers, but it's so small on that one too. But all these gaps are so small except for quarterback. Quarterback, there's a huge gap. Quarterback, there's a ginormous gap. It's not even close. Now back to the Bengals. Chiefs, I'm going to give quarterback to the Chiefs by a pretty healthy margin. Running backs, I'm going to go – or run game – running backs, I'm going to go Bengals. Run game or offensive line, I'm going to go Chiefs. So Chiefs have the 2-1. Receivers, Bengals, 2-2. Front seven, defenses are damn near even. Man, that's tough. Chris Jones is going to be the X factor in this game. If Chris Jones can get the pressure and make the moves and get the pressure and get to Joe Burrow and get to Joe Mixon and get that pass rush going, he is going to determine if the Chiefs are going back to the Super Bowl or if they're going to fall short in the AFC Championship again. Officially be owned by the Bengals. That's just how I look at it. It's going to come 100% down to, can Chris Jones get the pressure on Joe Burrow and the Bengals? But that's going to wrap it up for this. Thank you guys for tuning in. I know it was a quick episode. I appreciate it. I'm going to have content coverage in these games all week, obviously. Remember to like, subscribe, and make sure you join the chalkboard if you are a bettor and you want all the plays. Listen, we are on a heater, knock on wood. And right now, is Virginia Tech beating Duke? Last time I checked, Virginia Tech was beating Duke. Oh, they're up 6. Let's go, baby. So make sure you guys join. I appreciate it, and I will see everybody